everyone. I'm Stephen Taylor. I'm a Wadri man from Cowra, New South Wales. The river you see down here today is called the Galari to us. We call it the Lachlan, but it's the Galari. So on behalf of my ancestors, I'd like to welcome you to our country.
Today with a smaller group, I think we wanted to keep it sort of quite informal. I guess the potential with this particular project is to look at what opportunities there are to reconnect to country. What are the cultural and ecological knowledge that is available within the community or is there, and I guess give an opportunity for community to reconnect to land. And I think as part of that, there's a number of projects that we've been talking about with Larry and the rest of the K2W team, with Mary. And I think what we wanted to cover today is just to outline some of those opportunities and allow some discussion around those and how we may sort of advance them. We're also very lucky to have Victor come down from Cape York. They've kept him really busy for the past couple of days, and we've sort of slotted this in. I think it's unusual, particularly in the Cowra community, to get people to re-access to river. And I think from our perspective, we think this part of the Galari and Lachlan River is quite an unusual section of the river, just in terms of its vegetation and its aquatic health. And so I guess today is really about being on country, walking the country. We're going to give Victor an opportunity to talk about the project that he's been running up in Cape York and some of the potential applications that we could have here. We also may get Larry to talk a little bit about some of the projects we've been discussing through some of the community group sessions that we've been having in Cowra, about opportunities for people to reconnect to country and how they may be occurring, whether it's through fishing or water activities or revegetation projects that we talked about, some seed collection projects as well, how they may give opportunity for people to reconnect to country. And I think those are sort of the pretty exciting bits of the project that we're quite excited about as well. And I think it's also to acknowledge Indigenous culture here in this community, and I think we also want to extend that to landholders as well, to be given the opportunity to share in that knowledge and I guess put it out there to the broader community. So there's an appreciation of that culture and how that may feed into other things that we do as a community. I think also that the other aspect that we want to look at as well is how we can use the arts and the creative component of it to actually document and tell the story of what we're trying to do. So how we can potentially record the process of what we're doing here. I think the particular project that we're discussing with Phoebe and obviously the artists that are here today is how we may record some of the traditional burning project as well, in terms of the cultural significance, but just also from an observation perspective as well.
The three and traditional owners of this country, and I also acknowledge everyone here today. Thanks for having me and inviting me over, and it's really great to be talking about such stuff, important stuff like fire in Australia, and it's great to see communities embracing and working together with this important work as well, coming from thousands of years of Indigenous knowledge and applying that in a contemporary way for an evolving culture using fire as well. Developing the fire strategies from up north about 12-14 years ago is derived from traditional knowledge recording, and that has been something that I've been doing for the last 20 years or so, and also acknowledging the elders, Dr. Thomas George, and also the late Dr. George Musgrave, who are the two elders that work with me and developing a lot of these methodologies and recording traditional knowledge that's assisted communities all over Australia and many parts of Australia, and also in other countries too, in supporting that with those methods, using film to record knowledge, but above all to demonstrate that knowledge and apply that knowledge was more and more important. And so applying traditional knowledge and demonstrating seems to be the most important thing in my eyes, in terms of it, getting things happening on country and looking after country and getting people to understand each other and work together. And I think by being practical in an Indigenous sense of applying knowledge and teaching Indigenous teaching methodologies, I think there's a lot to offer around Australia, and bringing people together and looking after the country, and also healing our communities in a social and well-being sense as well. So it's really important that fire is not just seen as just fire. It's really connected to everything and all our well-beings and understanding, and is really important part of our future as well in this country. And I think people will starting to grow to realise that now. So the methodologies that we develop are based on bridging principles and are based on supporting people to build on their knowledge systems. So it's not about just going into a place and telling people how to burn and saying this is how you do it, or a blanket strategy going over certain systems. It's really based on, you know, over thousands of concepts and thousands of applications of applying fire, whether to support livelihoods, whether to support the biodiversity in our country, whether it's to support the cultural, revitalization of our cultural identities and knowledge, whether it's for cooking or feed or vulnerability, you know, sitting around having a yarn. Fire has, is really important. And just not long ago at Murrumbidgee, we did a burn out there, and we have a community really just here situated, and you just walk across the road and there's a river, the Lachlan River running past, and the kids and elders haven't been fishing there for years, and they told me how they went fishing there when they were small, and then I said, well, you haven't been fishing for years there, why? And they go, oh, it's because it's all scrubby and you can't get down there, and it's all grassy, and there's a lot of snakes in this country, and we're all scared to go down there because of the snakes. And I just thought, well, you know, like all this red tape and legislation and the being scared of burning and people being afraid of fire has stopped its community from able to clean and burn country and make it really safe and beautify their land to be able just to enjoy the river. And that is a real problem in a social sense, because those kids can't get down there, they're stuck in that community, and they're only going to get into more trouble, you know. And so it shows that fire has got a big role in many ways. And so that we burnt that river now, and they said, oh, I'm going fishing tomorrow. Yeah. And it's just really cool, you know, to see that, that they can access that, and it shows what fire can actually do for people in a positive way. And it's not about looking at fire on its own. It's never about that. It's about the land, it's about the soils, and it's about the grasses, and it's about the trees and the animals. It's not about fire in a sense of just the flames in your head, and, you know, what it does. It's really about the land. And once you see fire through the land, then you have a better understanding of fire and see it for what it truly is in its greatness. Going right back to when we first started to do our burns, we were up against all sorts of challenges, and a lot of that were attitudes, and people just didn't want to see Indigenous projects happening, and so it's been a real hard slog, bashing our heads against the walls and trying to get the fire recognised in National Park up there, and so over all the this and that and this way and that way, we've finally got a nice smooth sort of trail going now with the fire, and a real effective methodology in adopting these principles into new communities and to helping people rebuild their knowledge and start using fire in a more positive way. And all that has been based on adopting principle, but also moving together. And in terms of projects, people came to Cape York and went to fire workshops up there, and you know, there's another one on 14th of July coming up soon, and they're all there and they all learn, and people come into the workshop with different concepts of fire. This farmer will come, and this guy from rural fires will come, and then we have Indigenous fellas here and another fella from over here, and all come with different perspectives, and then they all walk away on the same page after 1 week, and you know, and just send all these happy people with all this nice energy straight back home to their countries. And a lot of them ended up, you know, came from New South Wales, and that sort of community-based mentorship has sparked a lot of most of this work, and has made most of this work successful. And that's where community is the answer when it comes to addressing the management of this country and applying fire to country, or looking after our water, or whatever it may be. It really boils down, the success of it really boils down to community. And so most of the work that I've been called to is to most people that need support in rebuilding their knowledge, and also people with fractured country as well, where the trees are chopped down, the weeds are everywhere, and there's a lot of problems. And when we look at the traditional knowledge in the sense of managing country when I'm at home and I'm in the bush, and I just walk along and just light, and it's in its natural setting, you know, it's all well and good and beautiful, and we still learn a lot from that, but it's even more challenging than our ancestors had in terms of facing fire today with the amount of problems that we have on country. So applying traditional knowledge in a sense to fractured country has really developed a really cool method that has started to teach me, and the country started to teach me more, and it's quite challenging in a lot of senses, but all possible in terms of reversing a lot of damage using traditional management methodologies, by getting rid of weeds and, you know, and getting our country beautified and getting more trees and creating more food and looking after our biodiversity, and as well as livelihoods as well, and enrich that again. So coming down to these areas and assisting with this is really important, because if we can show change in country and we can bring country back again, then that's an amazing thing, and we learn a lot more from that as well. And of course, through these projects, they come through the Indigenous door of getting our projects going, but through the Indigenous door we're able to involve everyone else, because we're sharing and caring people, and in our communities we'd like to involve people in our community, and generally 9 times out of 10 all the projects involve other people in the communities. The farmer next door, the rural fire brigade might come along and get involved, or and that's what we're really looking at here, is involving the whole community through Indigenous eyes and starting to work together.
The corridor project's effectively about corridors in the landscape, but also corridors of education, and it's how that segue that comes together in terms of bringing people together, bringing communities together, and communicating that information, and that, you know, that important linkage between school kids to elders who have the understanding and the knowledge, and how we get that to work, which we just apply it as we walk.
Well, while we're up here, if we look at those hills over there, and particularly the heavily forested area in the distance. Well, yeah, that one over there, but particularly that one over there, because I know the landholder over there is interested in fire management, but he's finding a lot of resistance from the RFS to even contemplate burning those hills. And he's dead scared that there's going to be a wildfire up
there. The RFS is a very scary place because it's a highly volatile community. This project is a lot about talking. I mean, we did this block over here, as Dylan said, and Michelle turned up with a giant cake and said, let's all sit down. We're like this, let's sit down now. Yeah, and so you've just got to take baby steps and show it, and maybe that fellow that's the problem, you know, maybe we need to bring him in where we're doing something somewhere else and to show him. And also understand in them, you know, they've got certain things that they have to get through as a government agency, you know, the ticker boxes of hectares burnt and people protected and whatever, you know, that sort of stuff. Hit them when the time's right, don't hit them when it's fire season, and say, do come over, and they'll go, oh, heavens. So yeah, it's about knowing them, talking to them and showing them as we go. I don't know, Victor might want to...
In partnering with K2W. One of the best experiences I guess I've had since I've been at K2W is to be involved in the corridor project here as well. And some of the projects that we run within Central Tablelands or the old Lachlan CMA, there are two programs, I suppose, good programs. One's the River Dreaming project, and it's getting people out on the river and looking at the water and aquatic ecosystems and the riparian zone from a different angle, or from a different point of view. And people do notice a lot of different things about the river, and once they actually get on the canoes. And that was the case with the project that we ran here. We ran a pilot project here. But there are lots of different things that we do with the river dreaming. Of course, we look at the Aboriginal cultural heritage, the significance of cultural heritage on the river, and the attachment that Aboriginal people have to, particularly to the waterways. Waterways were very, very important in the past. They were our highways, and it's a well-known fact that within 180 metres of waterways, whether it's a river or wetland or just a tributary, you'll find cultural sites of significance. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of artefacts that have been found. And there are lots of thousands of scarred trees that you find within the waterway as well. What you most likely find, scarred trees or carved trees. The carved trees are different, very, very different to scarred trees. And a lot of our scarred trees, or carved trees in particular, have disappeared because of the fear factor in regard to the land rights movement and all that sort of stuff. Recommendations for some of the for this project here to expand and to get Aboriginal people attached to it. What we want to do here is try and put a bit of a walkway between here and the next property. I think you own that.
Yeah, further down.
Yeah. The property just about couple of k's up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to put a walkway here. We've made a recommendation for that. On the walkway, we want to stop and have a look at the bird life. We want to look at the revegetation area up there. We also want to put a patch along the river here somewhere where we can continue with traditional birding as well. And we're going to negotiate and talk to the Cara Aboriginal community about putting scar trees along here so that they can be used as educational tools and getting people to really look at the way that Aboriginal people worked in the past and get them attached to the Aboriginal culture. Of course, it's fantastic to see the artists. We've got some artists here today. Phoebe, is that right?
Yes, sorry.
Put your hand up if you're an artist. So let me introduce you to one of the best Aboriginal artists in the country, Steve, as well. He's pretty good at Aboriginal art, and that's something we want to try and look at as well. Now, Milton Lewis, Dr. Milton Lewis, he's going to write a book about burning on the Lachlan. And what we want to try and do is capture some of the real art and the spiritual connection to Aboriginal art and the attachment to fire. I don't know how you artists are going to be able to come up with something like that, but I guess Steve would be the person to talk to. But I'd really like to see some of that artwork included in the book that we're committed to complete. I'm not sure the time frame that we're
It'll be a
working
while
with.
because it's a storybook of everyone's journey through the fire project. So it'll be after we go up north because there's people from here going up there and that's part of their story. So it'll be.
We've captured, or we're trying to capture, is a traditional ecological knowledge calendar, a tech calendar, and we found that there's nothing recorded in regard to a tech calendar. Victor might, I'll have a bit of a talk with you later. We haven't had a good chance to catch up, mate. You've been too busy, eh?
You've been feeding me sausages all week.
About that, but we've consulted with a number of Aboriginal people across the catchment and the times and the seasons. But we're going to take it one step further as well, and we're going to attach that to astronomy, Aboriginal astronomy too as well. We have not a comprehensive report of Aboriginal astronomy put out at the moment, but we do have an Aboriginal astronomy report, and we're actually attaching it to Aboriginal astronomy. If you'd like a copy of that, see me before you go, and I'll see if I can pick you off a copy of that too as well. Now, barely scratched the surface of the astronomy report too as well, and we're going to grow that particular report as we go along, and people are getting excited about it, particularly the Aboriginal people, the Wiradjuri people themselves, and it's starting to spread that idea. But I
Never going to live there.
for the first time in my life, watching Victor and the crew burn the mallee, which we thought was going to actually take off, but to see the mallee burn the way it did, it's absolutely magic. And to see the burn that was done at Murray Bridge with the Aboriginal people in the community there, and to see the, you know, when the burn took place, something phenomenal happened. The birds, what were they?
Even pelicans up there.
Yeah, they all came and they swooped and they followed the smoke, and you can see them actually diving down.
They still got the knowledge though.
They do, they remember.
Yeah.
All the animals have it still. It's entrenched in them. So you got to be wondering what they're thinking now. What's going on now?
I'm so proud to be able to stand up and call myself a Aboriginal person. Always have been, but even more so now with that state support.
So we're saying like the Wadra people didn't leave their boundaries. You had, like Victor said, you have your managers, but then you have your scouts too that go out and learn new things off other tribes as well, sharing that barter system. So there's always sharing and learning with other tribes. We weren't always stuck in one. We're always sharing, like Victor coming down here, he's sharing stuff and we're sharing stuff. It's all about sharing and learning. Knowledge is only powerful if you share it. Youth back down here fishing, kayaking, Larry's talking about, and also maybe doing campouts with them too and teaching them about the stars. Not just saying, oh, there's an emu in the sky, you explain why he's in the sky. You know, explain why different stars are in certain places, and explain the reasons behind it instead of just like saying, oh, that's the site over there. Explain what the site is. Explain why they did cool ones, you know. Explain all that little bits there so they understand it. So and it teach them that culture's not dead, it's still alive. If you say it's dead, it's going to be dead to you. You've got to keep it alive in your youth as well as your community. But hopefully next year maybe, if I put my hand up for it, we'll hopefully have corroboree here if it all plans out. And that's 500-600 followers coming to do the dances from their own country for free. It's just sharing of culture as well. And that they'll dance from 1 till 2 o'clock in the morning. That's the last time we danced. And they're all telling more stories from all their country and they're just sharing them for free. Some they can explain, some they can't.
Steve, are these people here welcome to come with us?
Yeah, all the community.
That'd be fantastic.
It's a showcase of Aboriginal culture.
So that's a project we will be working very intensively with Mary over here. Mary's with K2W and as well. So that's important, and yeah, we're very grateful that Mary's on board and able to support us. One of the other things we're working on as well with K2W is a consultation policy, and we've just about got it all there. We just have to put it together, you know, for the K2W project. But I'm really hoping that we can go ahead with the project and put a walkway here. What we do.
I think with that, Larry, I think with that project it should be people responding to it. I think we put the broad out there,
Yeah.
and it's up to people when they come here and how they connect to here, how they see it happening, not saying this is the project. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I don't mean to inject that, but just, I think it's for people to experience it and for them to respond to it and how they want it. And I guess that's the opportunity that's there. For them to come here, camp, go to the river, be in the river system, and then say, okay, these are the bits that we want to explore more. But that's going to take a bit of time and getting more people out here, more different groups out here to experience it and say this is the opportunity, and then how we work through that. And it'll be a great, you know, a pretty brilliant thing if we did get that corroboree here. Is one of the key things of that happening is a celebration of people reactivating and reconnecting.
So maybe you could do like one for youth, like a walk for youth to explain stuff, and then a walk for adults to explain a bit more. You know? Because there's always different levels of learning. It's just depends who's listening.
I think Harry Lamb said, who'll be here later this afternoon, he talked about the idea, you know, if we did talk about scar trees, that he'd bring a group of youth here and talk to them about the significance, and then actually then enact one, actually teach them the culture about it. So you have a series of those things occurring, and people are connecting to land vicariously through doing it, but you set a series of activities where they're doing it. And then I, you know, from a young age, remember when those school excursions that you went out and you spent time, you know, in the bush or in the country, and yeah, just letting kids to sit 10 minutes on their own, not communicating, not talking to anyone, not doing anything, not playing on an iPhone. There was no reception. not even dealing with it, but just to spend time solitary in an environment, I think is really critical. And quite commonly, the first thing people talk about is the hum in your ears. That it's that quiet that you can't hear anything because the noise in your ears. And I think it's important for people to stop and reconnect in that way. And I think that's the opportunity here. And if people want to take it on board, I think that's how we work it through. I think there's some ideas that we had there, but I think they'll evolve as the group. They might happen, but I think we don't want to drive it, or I don't want to drive it. It'll be how people come here and see it and say, well, how do we take it forward?
I think it all kind of stemmed when the burn occurred here a couple of years ago, and I spoke to Larry and said, wow, this would be a really major, interesting project to follow with a group of artists documenting it, whether that be visual or performance artists. Following it over the months, over the years, it's going to transpire, I think. It's going to be like slow cooking, it'll resonate into some extraordinary kind of document because it is so slow going. But it's also just harbouring the right type of artists too to work on it. To date, we've found a combination of visual artists who are sculptors, printmakers, ceramicists, photographers, and experimental artists. I think it should be two components. I think it should be non-Indigenous and Indigenous artists working with it, of which I've discussed with Larry. Larry was really excited about the idea. Not only, we were also saying it would be good to possibly have an exhibition, like, showing all the works, in the combination of the body of work from the artists. I've spoken to Alicia Lonsdale from, for Arts Out West in Bathurst. She's the Aboriginal Education Officer there. She's really keen, I think, to be involved. If she can't do it, it'd be really good to talk to you, Larry, and also the community in Cowra.
Yeah, I think Steve would be a good...
Yeah, no, Steve would be great. Like, talking, with professional, and I really want that managed by, a local Wiradjuri person, ideally. And then I'd kind of manage the non-Indigenous, but then we just obviously, kind of work together on the document as to what gets produced. But the artists that we've chosen to date have all got a long history, professional backgrounds. They're all, there's one early career, but mainly mid-career to established artists, career artists, which I think is really important because it'll be taken very seriously. It's not, it's going to be a really important kind of body of work. And it's, so we find it fascinating. Tim, what do you, because you were there in the early days too in the discussion.
Well, I think that's a pretty good overview, really, and I think, when we first came across the idea, we just got excited by the whole concept of re-engagement with the land, and which really sort of stimulated us to sort of want to be involved. So, I think what you've said is a really good overview of what we're sort of aiming for. We'll just, as you say, it's a slow burn. We'll just see how it sort of pans out.
Yeah, exactly.